This is what happens after the spiritual seal mind, the final alignment of the chosen. There is a moment in the spiritual life that almost no one prepares you for. It doesn't come with a sound. It doesn't come with an announcement. Yet once it happens, you know, because nothing feels the same afterward. You still live in the same world, talk to the same people, walk through the same days, but inside, something has shifted. Your spirit feels marked. Your heart feels heavier, clearer, more awake, and you begin to sense that you are no longer merely believing, you are being claimed. Many people think the spiritual seal is the finish line. They imagine it as God saying, "You're safe now, you've arrived." But if that's what you expect, you will be confused by what comes next. Because after the seal, life doesn't slow down, it intensifies. God doesn't pull you out of the process, He pulls you deeper into it. And that is why some of you feel pressure you can't explain, urgency you can't shake, and a growing discomfort with things that never used to bother you. You may have asked yourself, why is this harder now that I sit closer to God? Why do I feel more sensitive, more aware, more restless? Why does it feel like time is speeding up? It's because the seal is not a reward. It is a declaration of ownership. Heaven now recognizes you as set apart. And when God marks what belongs to Him, preparation begins, refinement begins, separation begins, not to harm you, but to ready you for what cannot be entrusted to an unsealed heart. This message is for those who feel that something irreversible has happened in their spirit, for those who sense that comfort is being replaced by calling and ease by purpose. Stay with me, because once you understand what truly happens after the spiritual seal, you will stop fearing the pressure and start understanding the plan. Part 1. The seal is not the end, it is the beginning. When God places a spiritual seal on a life, He is not closing a chapter, He is opening one that cannot be reversed. This is why so many believers feel disoriented after a season of surrender, repentance, or deep consecration. You thought you were arriving at rest, but instead you stepped into responsibility. You expected relief, but instead you encountered clarity. The seal marks a transition from invitation to ownership. Before the seal, God patiently draws you. He reasons with you. He allows room for immaturity while you learn His voice. But after the seal, the relationship shifts. Not because His love changes, but because your position does. You are no longer merely being convinced, you are being entrusted. And what is entrusted must be prepared. This is why many people experience a sudden narrowing of life after the seal. Paths that once felt open begin to close. Relationships that once felt comfortable start to strain. Activities that once filled time begin to feel hollow. This is not loss, it is focus. God is reducing noise so you can hear instruction. The seal awakens a new level of accountability. Conviction becomes sharper. Discernment becomes faster. You no longer need someone to tell you what is wrong. Your spirit reacts before your mind forms words. This can feel overwhelming at first. You may wonder why God feels stricter than before, but He is not stricter. You are clearer. After the seal, excuses stop working. Delayed obedience begins to feel unbearable. Half-truths weigh heavier. Compromise drains you instead of satisfying you. This is because the spirit within you is no longer content to coexist with divided loyalty. The seal marks you as belonging fully to God, not partially, not temporarily. Another reality many are unprepared for is resistance. After the seal, spiritual opposition often increases. Not because you have become arrogant, but because you have become visible. The enemy does not fight those who are undecided. He resists those who are marked. And resistance is not a sign that you are off course. It is often confirmation that you are aligned. You may notice that warfare becomes more subtle. Temptation may come disguised as weariness, discouragement, or distraction rather than obvious sin. The goal is no longer to make you fall publicly, but to make you drift quietly. This is why God begins training your endurance after the seal. You are being taught how to stand when nothing dramatic is happening, when faith must operate without adrenaline. The seal also begins a stripping process. God removes false identities you once relied on, labels, roles, approval, achievements, not to leave you empty, but to ensure that what remains cannot be shaken. When the final pressure comes, only what is sealed will endure. After the seal, God stops shaping you for crowds and starts shaping you for assignment. He is not impressed by visibility. He is focused on faithfulness, and faithfulness is forged in hidden places, long waits and obedience that no one applauds. If you feel like your life has become quieter but heavier, slower but more intense, less exciting but more meaningful, you are not losing momentum. You are being grounded. Because what comes next requires stability, not speed. The seal is the beginning of preparation for something that cannot be rushed, and God will not waste what He has marked. Part 2. What changes inside the sealed believer? One of the most profound effects of the spiritual seal is not what happens around you, it is what happens within you. The internal transformation begins quietly, but it reshapes everything. The first change is hunger. Not hunger for information, but hunger for truth. Surface-level teaching stops satisfying you. Repetition without revelation feels empty. You find yourself craving depth, silence, prayer, and scripture in a way you never did before. This hunger is not emotional, it is spiritual alignment. Your spirit is now tuned to what sustains it. Along with hunger comes sensitivity. You feel things more deeply, words carry more weight, atmospheres affect you. You discern when something is off, even if you cannot explain why. This sensitivity can feel like weakness, but it is actually refinement. God is sharpening your spiritual senses so you can respond quickly when direction is needed. Another change is internal pressure. You feel a sense of urgency that does not come from fear but from awareness. Time feels shorter, delay feels heavier. You are not panicking. You are awakening. The Spirit is impressing on you that moments matter, obedience matters, alignment matters. This pressure often brings loneliness. Not because God has abandoned you, but because your inner world has shifted. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel shallow. Priorities no longer match. You are not rejecting people. You are growing beyond certain frequencies. And growth always creates distance before it creates new connection. The sealed believer also experiences an internal war between patience and urgency. You feel called to wait, yet compelled to prepare. You sense that something is coming, yet you cannot force it. This tension is intentional. God is teaching you how to live ready without running ahead. Another internal shift is courage. Not loud courage, but quiet resolve. You stop needing permission to obey God. You stop requiring agreement to be faithful. You become willing to be misunderstood if it means remaining aligned. This courage is born from identity. You know who you belong to, even if others don't understand who you are becoming. The seal also brings restlessness with stagnation. You can no longer tolerate spiritual complacency in yourself or in environments you remain in too long. This does not mean constant movement, it means constant growth. Wherever you are, God expects increase. Perhaps the most difficult internal change is surrender of control. After the seal, God often disrupts your plans, not to frustrate you, but to teach you trust at a deeper level. You begin to realize that obedience does not always come with explanation. Faith matures when it learns to move without full clarity. You may grieve the simplicity of earlier seasons, and that grief is valid, but do not confuse grief with regret. You are not losing something precious. You are stepping into something weighty. The seal does not make life easier. It makes life purposeful, and purpose carries weight. If you feel these changes stirring within you, you are not unstable. You are being established. God is not dismantling you. He is aligning you, and this internal work is preparing you for what must be carried next. Part 3. What the world cannot see after the seal. One of the most misunderstood aspects of the spiritual seal is this. Its most powerful effects are invisible to everyone except God, the sealed believer, and the spiritual realm. To the outside world, your life may look unchanged. You still wake up, go to work, interact with people, and move through ordinary routines. But beneath the surface, something irreversible has taken place. After the seal, heaven responds to you differently. Your prayers carry a different weight. Not because your words are better, but because your alignment is deeper. You are no longer praying from curiosity, desperation, or imitation. You are praying from belonging, and belonging shifts authority. At the same time, the world often grows strangely indifferent or even resistant toward you. Not always hostile, sometimes simply dismissive. This is because what is sealed is no longer shaped by the world's approval system. You stop needing validation to obey. You stop adjusting truth to maintain comfort. And when you no longer mirror the world's values, the world no longer knows how to categorize you. This is where misunderstanding begins. People may say you've changed, and they're right. But they won't yet understand how or why. They may sense depth in you but feel uncomfortable around it. They may feel convicted without you saying a word. This is not because you are superior. It is because the spirit within you is active. After the seal, God often hides what he is doing in you, not to isolate you permanently, but to protect the work while it matures. The most important transformations are rarely visible in real time. Roots grow in darkness. Foundations are laid underground, and the deeper the calling, the quieter the construction. Another unseen shift is divine restraint. After the seal, God may prevent you from opportunities that look good on the surface, but would compromise your alignment. You may watch others advance faster, gain recognition sooner, or receive what you prayed for while you wait. This is not rejection, it is precision. God is not delaying you because you are unready. He is positioning you because timing matters. The world does not see the conversations God is having with your spirit. It does not see the lessons you are learning in silence. It does not see the spiritual muscles being strengthened through endurance. And it certainly does not see the protection that comes with the seal. There are attacks that never reach you because the seal blocks them. There are paths you never walk because the seal redirects you. There are storms that weaken before they arrive because the seal resists them. You may never know what you were spared from, and that is intentional. The world measures progress by visibility. God measures progress by stability. And after the seal, God becomes far more concerned with who you are becoming than what you are producing. This is why the sealed believer must learn not to explain themselves. Not everyone needs to understand your process. Not everyone is qualified to interpret what God is doing in you. Silence is not weakness. It is stewardship. Because what the world cannot see now will eventually speak for itself. Part 4. Separation, Pressure, and Divine Alignment. After the spiritual seal, separation becomes unavoidable. Not dramatic, not always immediate, but definite. God begins drawing lines where there used to be gray areas. And these lines are not meant to divide you from people in hatred, but to align you with purpose. Separation begins internally before it becomes external. You feel less comfortable blending in. You sense when environments drain you. You notice when conversations pull you backward. This is not pride, it is discernment. And discernment grows sharper after the seal. Then comes pressure. Pressure after the seal is different from pressure before it. Before, pressure was chaotic, reactive, confusing, overwhelming. After the seal, pressure becomes targeted. It focuses on endurance, patience, obedience, and trust. You are no longer being tested to see if you believe, but to see how deeply you trust. This is where many sealed believers struggle. They expected clarity, but instead they encounter waiting. They expected direction, but instead they face narrowing. They expected confirmation, but instead they are asked to move with limited information. This is divine alignment at work. Alignment requires friction. Just as an instrument must be tuned under tension, a believer must be aligned under pressure. God is adjusting your responses, not just your actions. He is training you to remain faithful when outcomes are delayed. During this season, you may feel misunderstood even by fellow believers. Your obedience may look extreme. Your boundaries may seem unnecessary. Your choices may not make sense to others. But alignment often looks like isolation before it looks like impact. God is teaching you how to stand alone without becoming lonely, how to obey without applause, how to remain humble without being hidden forever. Separation also reveals who can walk with you into the next season and who cannot. Some relationships end, not because of conflict, but because of completion. They served their purpose, and now God is calling you forward. This can be painful, letting go always is. But holding on to what God has released will only delay where He is leading. Pressure also exposes your foundations. After the seal, God allows shaking not to destroy you, but to remove what cannot last. Anything built on approval, comfort, or self-effort begins to crack. What remains is what is anchored in truth. And here is the hope alignment brings: peace. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of assurance. Even in uncertainty, you feel held. Even in waiting, you feel guided. Even in silence, you feel watched over. This is how you know the seal is active. You are not drifting. You are being directed. The pressure is not meant to crush you. The separation is not meant to isolate you. The alignment is not meant to confuse you. It is all preparing you for what must be carried next. Part 5. The final preparation before the gathering. After the spiritual seal, after the internal transformation, after the unseen work, and after the seasons of separation and pressure, there comes a stage that is quieter than all the others and far more serious. This is the stage of final preparation, not preparation for success, not preparation for recognition, but preparation for departure, preparation for readiness, preparation for alignment with God's timing rather than your own. This is where many sealed believers feel an unexplainable shift. The striving fades. The need to prove something disappears. The hunger changes again, no longer desperate, but focused. You are no longer asking God to bless your plans. You are asking Him to remove anything that does not belong. After the seal, God begins preparing you not just to live faithfully, but to finish faithfully. This preparation is subtle. It often looks like slowing down rather than speeding up. God teaches you to listen more than speak, to observe more than react, to obey quickly without requiring reassurance. You learn that urgency does not mean chaos, and readiness does not mean panic. You become aware that your life is no longer random. Moments feel intentional. Interruptions feel purposeful. Delays feel instructive. You stop fighting the process because you recognize the pattern. God is refining attention. This is the season where distractions lose their grip. Things that once competed for your time no longer hold authority over your heart. Not because you forced yourself to let them go, but because you outgrew them. Your priorities reorder themselves. Eternity becomes more real than achievement. Many sealed believers begin to sense that this world feels temporary in a new way, not with fear or detachment, but with clarity. You still love people deeply. You still care about responsibilities, but you no longer anchor your identity in what can be taken away. This is readiness. God also begins emphasizing watchfulness, not date setting, not speculation, but alertness of heart. You become careful with what you allow into your spirit. You guard your peace. You protect your obedience. You understand that vigilance is not paranoia. It is stewardship. During this time, God often strengthens assurance. You may not know when everything will culminate, but you know who you belong to. Fear loses its voice. Anxiety no longer controls decisions. Hope becomes steady rather than emotional. This final preparation also involves compassion. After the seal, and especially near the end of preparation, God softens your heart toward others. You stop arguing and start interceding. You stop trying to convince and start praying. You realize that time is short and love matters more than being right. You are not being prepared to escape the world. You are being prepared to stand faithfully until the moment God calls His own. This is not passivity. It is readiness with restraint. And those who reach this stage often feel a quiet knowing, I am where I need to be. Conclusion. Living after the seal with urgency and hope. Living after the spiritual seal is not about fear. It is about clarity. It is about understanding that once God marks a life, nothing is accidental anymore. Every season, every delay, every pressure carries meaning. The seal does not make you perfect. It makes you positioned. You will still grow. You will still learn. You will still face moments of weakness. But you will no longer wander without direction. Even when you don't understand the path, you know the shepherd. If you feel the weight of this message, do not resist it. Weight is not meant to crush. It is meant to ground. God does not seal what He intends to abandon. He seals what He intends to keep. After the seal, you are not forgotten. After the seal, you are not delayed. After the seal, you are not alone. You are being prepared for completion. So live attentively. Obey simply. Love deeply. Watch faithfully. Do not rush what God is finishing. Do not cling to what He is removing. Do not fear what He has already secured. Because what happens after the spiritual seal is not confusion. It is alignment. Not loss, but readiness. Not darkness, but focus. And when the moment comes, those who are sealed will not be surprised. They will be ready.